The morning started with Marcus standing in my bedroom doorway, his arms crossed like he owned the place, which according to him, he now did. Jennifer, the movers arrive in 2 hours. I need you out before noon. I looked up from my coffee, sitting at the small desk where I'd spent countless mornings watching the sunrise over Lake Michigan. The penthouse had floor-to-ceiling windows that made the entire city feel like it belonged to you. 23 floors up, overlooking the water, with enough space that you could forget anyone else existed. The foreclosure notice said I had 30 days, I said quietly. Marcus laughed, that sharp bark he'd developed since marrying my mother. That was before I talked to the bank. Turns out when you're willing to settle the debt immediately, they're very accommodating. The property transfers today. Mom agreed to this. Your mother is in Italy with my daughters, having the vacation she deserves after years of supporting a stepdaughter who couldn't even hold down a decent job. He checked his watch, an expensive Rolex he'd bought himself for their first anniversary. She signed the papers remotely yesterday. Very convenient, modern technology. I sipped my coffee, feeling the warmth spread through my chest. Outside, a sailboat drifted across the lake, its white sail bright against the blue water. I see. Do you? Marcus stepped into the room, his presence filling the space like toxic gas. Because for 5 years, I've watched you live in this place rent-free. No job, no ambition, just coasting on whatever money your father left before he died. Well, that's over now. My real children need this space. There it was. Real children. As if the 11 years I'd spent as part of this family meant nothing. Brittany is starting at Northwestern in the fall, Marcus continued. She needs a place close to campus. And Madison's moving back from New York. Her startup didn't work out, but that's what happens when you actually try things instead of hiding in a penthouse pretending to be something you're not. I understand, I said. Marcus's eyes narrowed. He'd been spoiling for a fight, I could tell. My calm responses always threw him off balance. The movers will pack your things. I'm being generous. You can take your personal items, clothes, whatever, but the furniture stays, the art stays, everything of value stays. Of course. Jesus, Jennifer, don't you have any pride, any fight in you at all? He turned toward the door, then stopped. Your mother and I discussed it. You can stay in the corporate apartment in Schaumburg for 60 days. After that, you're on your own. Time to grow up. The corporate apartment was a 1-bedroom box in a complex 40 miles from downtown. My mother had mentioned it once. Marcus's company kept it for visiting executives and clients who didn't rate a hotel. That's very kind. Marcus made a disgusted sound and left. I heard his footsteps echo through the penthouse, then the front door slam. I finished my coffee slowly, watching the sailboat complete its turn and head back toward the harbor. My phone sat on the desk, dark and silent. I picked it up, scrolled through my contacts, then set it back down. Not yet. The movers arrived at exactly 10 o'clock. Professional, efficient, wearing matching uniforms with Premier Moving Services, embroidered on the chest. The kind of company that charged premium rates and didn't ask questions. The crew chief, a man named Tom with gray at his temples, knocked on my bedroom door. Miss, we're going to start in the living room, work our way through. Mr. Harris said, you're only taking personal belongings. That's correct. We'll set those aside. Everything else gets loaded. I'd already packed my clothes into 2 suitcases and a duffel bag. 28 years of life reduced to 3 pieces of luggage. It should have felt tragic, but I just felt tired. Tom's crew moved through the penthouse like locusts. The Italian leather sofa, my mother had spent 3 months selecting. The dining table that sat 12, imported from Denmark. The Chihuly glass sculpture in the entryway that cost more than most people's cars. I sat on my suitcases in the hallway, watching them work. Marcus returned around 11:30, bringing Brittany and Madison with him. His daughters had their mother's thin frame and sharp features, though they'd inherited Marcus's aggressive energy. Oh my God, this place is amazing. Brittany squealed, running to the windows. Dad, you can see everything from up here. Madison walked through more slowly, appraising. The decor needs work, very 2010s. We'll need to completely redo it. Whatever you want, sweetheart. Marcus said, this is your space now. Brittany turned, noticing me for the first time. Oh, you're still here? The movers aren't finished, I said. Well, try not to take anything that isn't yours. She laughed, linking arms with her sister. Dad told us about the foreclosure. It must be so embarrassing, losing everything. Marcus stood behind them, his hands on their shoulders, the picture of a proud father. His eyes met mine with pure triumph. Girls, why don't you pick out your bedrooms? The master suite is yours. Brittany, since you're staying full-time. Madison, you can have the guest suite or the study. We'll convert whichever you prefer. They disappeared down the hallway, their excited chatter echoing off the walls. Marcus approached me, lowering his voice. I want you gone before they finish measuring for new furniture. My interior designer arrives at 1. Of course. You know what your problem is, Jennifer. No fight, no ambition. Your father spoiled you, and your mother enabled it. Well, real world doesn't work that way. He pulled out his phone, checking something. The Schomburg apartment key is with building security. Code is 4782. Don't lose it. There's a $200 replacement fee. Tom emerged from the master bedroom, consulting his tablet. Mr. Harris, we need clarification on the bedroom furniture. The bed frame is custom built into the wall structure. We can't remove it without damage to the unit. Leave it, Marcus said. We're replacing everything anyway. Understood. We're about 60% complete. Should have the truck loaded within 90 minutes. Marcus checked his watch. Excellent. Jennifer, I need you out of the building before the designer arrives. Take your things down to the lobby. I stood, gripping the handle of my largest suitcase. The leather was worn where my fingers always held it, a familiar texture that grounded me. Actually, Marcus said, a new thought occurring to him. The building requires a formal checkout. Surrender your key fob, parking pass, gym access card, everything. I reached into my bag, pulled out the items, and placed them in his outstretched hand. Parking pass too, he said. I know you have a spot in the underground garage. I handed over the plastic card. Marcus examined each item like he was checking for forgeries, then pocketed them. The building manager needs to note the transfer. We should go down together. Make it official. We rode the elevator in silence. The descent from the 23rd floor took 37 seconds. I'd timed it once, during the first week after my father died, when I couldn't sleep and spent hours just riding up and down. The lobby was all marble and glass, designed to impress. A massive floral arrangement sat on the central table, changed twice weekly. The concierge desk ran along the far wall, staffed 24 hours. David, the day concierge, looked up as we approached. He'd worked here for 6 years, always remembered everyone's names, asked about my mother when she was traveling. Mr. Harris, Miss Torres, good morning. David, we need to process a checkout, Marcus said. Jennifer is surrendering her access to the building. I'm taking full control of Unit 23B. David's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. I'll need to see documentation, Mr. Harris. Building policy requires proper transfer paperwork for any access changes. Marcus pulled out his phone, brought up an email. The sale documentation. Property transfer was finalized this morning. Jennifer no longer has any claim to the unit. David read the screen carefully, too carefully. He was stalling. This appears to be in order, but I'll need to verify with building management. Miss Torres has been a resident for 11 years, I said quietly. Since I was 17, since she was a child living off her parents. Marcus corrected. That's over now. Process the checkout, David. David looked at me, a question in his eyes. I gave a tiny shake of my head. Not yet. I'll need to make a call, David said. Building policy. Just a moment. He picked up the desk phone, dialed an internal extension, murmured something I couldn't hear, listened, then his eyebrows rose slightly. I see. Yes, she's here now. I'll let her know. He hung up, turned back to us. Miss Torres, Mr. Henderson would like to see you in his office. 3rd floor. Marcus frowned. Who's Henderson? Building manager, I said. Whatever he needs can wait. We're in the middle of it's regarding the property transfer, David said, his voice carefully neutral. He was quite insistent. Marcus's jaw tightened. Fine, let's go. I want this settled now. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The management offices were understated. Thick carpet, wood paneling, the kind of quiet wealth that didn't need to advertise itself. Henderson's secretary, Margaret, smiled as we entered. Miss Torres, Mr. Henderson is expecting you. Mr. Harris, if you could wait here please. I'm coming in, Marcus said. This concerns my property. Mr. Henderson specifically requested to speak with Miss Torres first. I'm sure it won't take long. Marcus looked ready to argue, but Margaret had already opened the inner door for me. James Henderson was in his 60s, impeccably dressed, with the calm demeanor of someone who'd handled every possible crisis. He stood as I entered. Jennifer, please sit. Would you like water, coffee? I'm fine, thank you. He settled back into his chair, folding his hands on the desk. I received an interesting call this morning. From Chicago First National, Senior Vice President named Patricia Meredith. Do you know her? We've spoken. She expressed some concerns about the property transfer documentation she'd been reviewing. Apparently there are some discrepancies. Through the door, I could hear Marcus pacing in the outer office. Henderson continued. According to the bank's records, Unit 23B isn't in foreclosure. In fact, the mortgage was paid in full 3 years ago. The property is owned outright by the Torres Family Trust. That's correct, but Mr. Harris has documentation claiming he purchased the unit this morning to satisfy debt. He has paperwork, I agreed. Whether it's legitimate is another question. Henderson's expression didn't change, but I saw the hint of a smile. Miss Meredith mentioned she's on her way here now, with representatives from the Trust Administration Office. She seemed quite concerned about potential fraud. I appreciate her diligence. Jennifer, I have to ask, why didn't you simply tell Mr. Harris the truth? Show him the trust documents. I thought about that, about Marcus's face when he told me his real children needed this space, about my mother signing papers in Italy, without a conversation, about 11 years of being treated like a charity case. I wanted to see how far he'd go, I said quietly. Henderson nodded slowly. Miss Meredith said she'd be here within the hour. She suggested you might want to have your attorney present. Martin should be arriving soon. In the meantime, would you like me to inform Mr. Harris of the situation? Not yet, let's wait for Patricia. We returned to the outer office. Marcus jumped up immediately. Well, is this settled? Mr. Henderson needs to verify some documentation, I said. It shouldn't take long. I have a designer coming. I don't have time for bureaucratic nonsense. Margaret's phone rang. She answered, listened, then looked at Henderson. Sir, there are several people here to see you, from Chicago First National Bank. Send them in, Henderson said. The door opened, and Patricia Meredith entered first. She was 50-something, elegant in a navy suit, carrying a leather briefcase. Behind her came 2 men in expensive suits, and a woman I recognized immediately, Sandra Kim from the Trust Administration Office. James, thank you for accommodating us on short notice, Patricia said, then turned to me. Jennifer, good to see you. Patricia, thank you for coming. Marcus stepped forward. I'm Marcus Harris. I don't understand what's happening here. I purchased this property legally this morning. Patricia's expression was perfectly polite, perfectly cold. Mr. Harris, I'm Patricia Meredith, Senior Vice President at Chicago First National. These are my colleagues, David Chen from our legal department, and Richard Abbott from fraud prevention. You know Sandra Kim? I don't know any of you. What is this about? It's about the property you claim to have purchased this morning, Patricia said. Could you show me your documentation? Marcus pulled out his phone, brought up the emails. Patricia examined them, her expression unchanging. She handed the phone to David Chen, who studied it carefully. Mr. Harris, who did you interact with at the bank? Chen asked. A loan officer named Thompson. Brad Thompson. And he told you the property was in foreclosure? Yes, he said if I settled the outstanding debt immediately, the bank would transfer ownership. How much did you pay? $475,000. Wire transfer this morning. Patricia and Chen exchanged a look. Mr. Harris, we don't have a loan officer named Brad Thompson, Patricia said, and Unit 23B has no outstanding debt. The property was paid off in full on March 15, 2022. The color drained from Marcus's face. That's impossible. I have the emails, the wire confirmation, everything. You have communications from a scammer, Abbott said, stepping forward. A sophisticated one, certainly. But the account you wired money to isn't affiliated with Chicago First National in any capacity. Marcus looked at me, then back at Patricia. But the property transfer documents are fraudulent, Chen said. The signatures are forged, the transfer numbers don't match our system, and most critically, the property was never ours to sell. Then who owns it? Sandra Kim opened her briefcase, pulled out a leather portfolio. The Torres Family Trust owns the property. It has since the trust was established in 2019. Jennifer Torres is the sole beneficiary. Marcus's mouth opened, closed. She doesn't have any money. She doesn't even have a job. The trust was established by Jennifer's late father, Richard Torres. Sandra continued. Current asset value is approximately $4.7 million. Assets include this penthouse, an investment portfolio, and several commercial properties in the greater Chicago area. 4.7 million, Marcus repeated, his voice faint. The trust is structured to provide Jennifer with a modest monthly distribution, while preserving principal, Sandra explained. She receives $45,000 annually for living expenses. The bulk of the assets remain invested for long-term growth. I watched understanding dawn on Marcus's face. All those years of calling me lazy, unmotivated, living off charity, all those comments about getting a real job, contributing to society, being a burden. You let me think, he started. You thought what you wanted to think, I said quietly. I never claimed to be broke. You assumed it. Patricia cleared her throat. Mr. Harris, I need to inform you that we'll be filing a police report regarding the wire fraud. You're a victim here, and we take these schemes very seriously. We'll do everything we can to help you recover your funds. But the property remains solely in Jennifer's name through the trust, Sandra said firmly. Any documentation suggesting otherwise is void. If you've made any changes to the property or removed items, those will need to be reversed immediately. Marcus looked at me, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. The movers, they're loading everything right now. Then I suggest you stop them, Henderson said. We returned to the penthouse in a convoy. Me, Patricia, Sandra, the two lawyers, Henderson and Marcus trailing behind like a condemned man heading to the gallows. The elevator ride was silent, except for Marcus's ragged breathing. When the doors opened on the 23rd floor, we could hear Brittany and Madison laughing in what used to be my bedroom. Tom and his crew were carrying the last of the dining room chairs toward the door. Stop, Marcus shouted. Stop everything. Tom set down the chair carefully. Sir, we're almost done loading. Unload it. All of it. Now, Mr. Harris. We've already spent 3 hours. I don't care. Unload everything and put it back exactly where it was. Brittany emerged from the hallway, annoyed. Dad, what's going on? The bedroom furniture. She stopped when she saw the group of people in suits. Marcus's voice shook. Girls, we need to leave. Now. But you said this was our place, Madison protested. I was wrong. We need to go. Patricia stepped forward, her voice professional but firm. Mr. Harris, I recommend you cooperate fully. Remove any items you or your daughters brought here, ensure the property is returned to its original condition, and vacate immediately. Who are you? Brittany demanded. I'm from the bank that actually owns. Patricia paused, corrected herself. That holds the trust that owns this property. Your father was the victim of fraud. This penthouse was never in foreclosure, and was never for sale. Madison turned to me, her expression shifting from confusion to anger. You knew, this whole time, you just sat there and let him what? I asked. Tell me I wasn't his real family. Call me lazy and useless. Throw my belongings into the hallway. You could have said something. I could have, I agreed, but then I wouldn't have known how far he'd go, how far all of you would go. Marcus pulled out his phone with shaking hands. I need to call your mother. She's in Italy, I reminded him, on vacation, with your daughters, the one she deserves after years of supporting a stepdaughter who couldn't hold down a decent job. His hand froze. Sandra Kim checked her watch. Mr. Harris, you have 1 hour to vacate the premises and restore the property. After that, we'll be forced to involve law enforcement for trespassing. The movers need to unload the truck, Tom said, looking at Marcus. That's another 3 hours minimum, plus our time already spent. We'll need payment for the full day, plus the additional labor. How much? $4,000. Marcus closed his eyes. Fine, just fix it. Put everything back. I watched from the kitchen while Tom's crew reversed 3 hours of work. The Chihuly sculpture returned to its place in the entryway. The Danish dining table reassembled. The Italian sofa positioned perfectly in the living room. Brittany and Madison had disappeared into the guest bedroom, their excited chatter replaced by tense whispers. Marcus stood by the windows, making quiet phone calls I couldn't hear. Patricia approached me, her voice low. Jennifer, I meant what I said. We take fraud very seriously. I've already reported this to our security team in the FBI's Cybercrimes Division. We'll do everything possible to help Mr. Harris recover his funds. I appreciate that. Though I have to say, watching him squirm was quite satisfying. She smiled slightly. Between you and me, Sandra joined us, setting her briefcase on the counter. I've drafted a formal trespass notice. If Mr. Harris or his daughters attempt to access the property again without your explicit permission, they'll be in violation. I recommend changing the locks and updating building security immediately. I will. Also, we should discuss the trust distributions. You've been taking the minimum annual amount, but given recent events, you might want to reconsider. The trust is structured to provide for your needs. You don't have to live on $45,000 a year. I know, I just never needed more. Patricia glanced at Marcus, still on his phone by the window. Something tells me that's about to change. Your mother will likely have questions when she learns what happened. Let her ask them. At 3:15, Tom approached Marcus. Sir, we're finished. Everything's back in place. But I need to inform you, when we were unloading, we noticed some items were damaged during transport. The glass coffee table has a crack, and one of the dining chairs has a loose joint. Marcus's face was gray. Send me the bill for repairs. I'll need payment for today's services first. Marcus pulled out his wallet, handed over a credit card. Tom ran it through a mobile reader, then frowned. It's declining, sir. Try again. Tom did. Same result. Do you have another card? Marcus tried 2 more cards. Both declined. The $475,000 he'd wired to a scammer this morning had apparently maxed out his available credit trying to cover it. I'll need to call the bank, Marcus said, his voice barely audible. We accept cash, Tom said patiently. In the end, Brittany paid with her credit card, her face flushed with humiliation. By 4 o'clock, the penthouse was empty except for me, Henderson, and Sandra. The movers were gone. Marcus and his daughters were gone. Patricia and the lawyers had returned to the bank with promises to stay in touch. Henderson stood in the entryway, looking around. 11 years you've lived here, since my father died. He bought it the year before, planned to retire here. Cancer got him first. And your mother remarried quickly. 14 months after the funeral, Marcus worked at Dad's company. They met at the memorial service. Henderson nodded slowly. The trust was wise, protected you. My father knew what he was doing. After Henderson left, I walked through the penthouse slowly. Every room held memories, not just of my father, but of the life I'd built here. The mornings watching sunrise over the lake, the evenings reading in the window seat, the quiet peaceful solitude of a space that was mine. I pulled out my phone, finally making the call I'd been putting off. My mother answered on the 3rd ring. Jennifer, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I just thought you should know. Marcus tried to sell the penthouse this morning. Thought it was in foreclosure. Silence. Then, that's impossible. I told him about the trust. When we got engaged, I explained that your father had protected your inheritance, that the penthouse was yours. He claimed he didn't know. More silence. He said he was going to help you manage it, that someone your age shouldn't have that responsibility. I thought, she trailed off. You thought he'd help me. Instead, he saw an opportunity. Jennifer, I'm so sorry. I didn't know He wired $475,000 to a scammer this morning. Thought he was buying the place out of foreclosure. Brought Brittany and Madison here to claim it. Called them his real family. I heard her sharp intake of breath. Mom, I need to know something. Did you sign papers for him? Related to the property. He said there were tax documents. That the trust needed updating for tax purposes. I signed them remotely yesterday. Her voice broke. Oh God, what did I do? You trusted your husband. That's not a crime. But Jennifer, your inheritance is safe. The trust is ironclad. Dad made sure of that. She was crying now. Soft sobs that made my chest tight. I'll come home. End the trip early. We need to figure this out. No, finish your vacation. We'll talk when you get back. But Marcus is going to have a lot of explaining to do. To you, to his credit card companies, to the FBI. But that's between you and him. After we hung up, I stood at the windows as the sun began to set. The lake turned golden, then orange, then deep purple as darkness crept in. My phone buzzed. A text from Sandra. Locks changed. New fobs ready tomorrow. Building security has been updated with trespass notice. Call if you need anything. Another text, this time from Patricia. FBI case number assigned. We'll keep you updated on the fraud investigation. Coffee next week. I replied to both with thanks, then set the phone down. The penthouse was quiet again, mine again. It had never stopped being mine, but now everyone knew it. I thought about Marcus's face when Sandra revealed the $4.7 million trust, the shock, the fear, the sudden recalculation of every assumption he'd made about me. For 11 years, I'd let them think what they wanted. Let Marcus feel superior. Let my mother assuage her guilt by supporting me. Let Brittany and Madison treat me like the poor relation. Because the truth was simpler than they could understand. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their money. I didn't need anything from them at all. My father had made sure of that. I made tea in the kitchen, using the Japanese kettle my father had brought back from a business trip to Tokyo. Carried it to the window seat. Wrapped myself in the throw blanket I'd had since college. Outside, the city lights sparkled like stars. 23 floors below, people hurried home from work, headed to dinner, lived their complicated lives. And up here, in the quiet of the penthouse that had always been mine, I sipped my tea and watched the night settle over the lake. Tomorrow I'd deal with the lawyers and the bank statements and the fraud investigation. Tomorrow I'd have difficult conversations with my mother about trust and marriage and money. But tonight, I just sat in the peace of knowing that sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting people reveal exactly who they are. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from David, the concierge. "Welcome home, Miss Torres, where you belong." I smiled, sent back a simple thank you, and settled deeper into the window seat. The sailboat from this morning was long gone, but others would come tomorrow. They always did. The lake was constant, reliable, exactly what it appeared to be, unlike people, unlike family, unlike everything else that could be taken away. But this penthouse, this view, this quiet sanctuary, was mine, had always been mine, and now everyone knew it.